Hey friends, welcome back. Super excited today to be talking about my second labor and delivery story. And I wanted to start by going over a couple of things I did differently this time around versus my first labor and delivery story. Which, if you haven't heard that video, I will drop that link in here as well so you guys can go ahead and listen to that story. I found these really helpful as I was preparing for labor and delivery both times around, so I thought it would be great to share this story with you all. So, the couple of things I did different, one was instead of having like that raspberry leaf tea every single day, I actually found like a tincture that had other things. It was like birth ease. I'll drop that link below for you guys. And I felt it was super helpful even after labor and for that postpartum and healing. I felt like it was a reason why I did so much better for quickly healing this time. There are other factors, of course, but I think that they may have helped me heal even faster and feel better sooner. So the tincture, instead of doing like the dates and the red raspberry leaf tea, also I did more preparation mentally this time. First time around, I did do some preparation. I listened to a lot of birth stories, a lot of positive birth stories, and I felt that that was still really helpful. But this time around, I focused on positive birth stories, but more so the meditation and just the practice of positive labor and delivery, and just the visualization piece and the relaxation and practicing the breathing techniques with like one or two videos in particular. Another woman on YouTube whom I think really helped me. Also having the experience of going through labor and delivery once before, and then I prepared for the support people who are going to be there for me, some positive affirmations that they could use during labor and delivery as I'm working through the contractions, and words that hopefully were not going to make me cringe in the moment, because as you get to know me more, anyone who's going to give me a compliment, I definitely cringe. So me coming up with phrases that hopefully in the moment were not going to make me cringe, because that was not going to be helpful. But I picked phrases that I felt were really going to empower me in the moment. So some of these were just even my husband saying like, hey, I believe in you, trust in your body. Every contraction gets you closer to meeting your baby. The stronger the contraction is, lean into it, relax, taking those deep breaths, horse lips. My husband and I read together Ina May's Childbirth book together. We read like a few pages every night. I think that was really helpful for him to be more involved, and to also understand where some of these phrases were coming from based on other women's stories. So if you guys are interested in that list, I can definitely just like copy and paste it, but just let me know. I don't know if that would be helpful to others. My husband told me after he felt like he was just on repeat. But for me, every time, especially as you get further and further along in labor, just being able to heal, like you don't think of it as being on repeat. It just helps remind you to relax your jaw, to relax your shoulders, to take deep breaths. Just really relaxing and leaning into it was really helpful this time around. So also another thing in preparation for this time around was needing to have someone to watch our firstborn, our son, when we needed to head off to the hospital. So we had my sister and brother-in-law who were kind of on call for certain time periods. There were certain days and whatnot, but basically they were more than willing to help us out in any way possible. So they were kind of our on-call people. And I'm not going to go into any more preparation. I'm going to kind of jump into the labor and delivery story and how things started. I was a few days late, few days past my expected due date, and the midwife had to schedule like a couple of weeks out those like extra appointments that you need if you're right past your due date, just some of the, I think some of the stress tests, and there were some other kind of tests, and then the induction where I really did not want that, and so she was willing, giving me the statistics, and so we pushed it off for as long as possible. Like, had to schedule out 2 weeks, like over the 2 weeks past the due date, that's when there starts to be increased risks for continuing to go, so without trying to pursue induction or other options. So really did not want to get to that point. Starting at 3 days past my due date, during the day. So also both pregnancies, I never got Braxton Hicks. Haven't felt those. So for this time around, I just had started having some very light, mild contractions where I was even questioning, like, oh, is this anything? Like, they were so mild, and very distant, very far apart. And it was just during the day, we actually decided to go and get some Mexican food to try a new place, because we had moved just at the beginning of the year, so we were trying to try out some new restaurants, find places that we like and enjoyed in the new area that we moved to. And at dinner I was like, this could be, like, telling my husband, this could be the last time, as we're a family of 3. Like, I've told him I was having some very mild something going on, and a couple of them happened during dinner, but that, like, hey, nothing really. Get home, and I heard about the woman talking about, hey, once your body can fully relax, like if you have other kids, and once they're in bed, things can ramp up. And so we actually took some pictures. I was like, oh, like, I think this could be it. So we took a couple of pictures together as we got our first little one ready for bed, and put him down, and then we went to bed. I can't remember if we stayed up and watched a little bit, but definitely went to bed early because I was just tired, being very pregnant, of course. So we lay down, and things like kind of ramped up a little bit. It was hard to tell. I couldn't really get a good feeling. Nothing was consistent, and basically I was just ignoring at this point. I'm like, I'm just gonna go to bed, go to sleep. And this was early. Like, our son goes to bed at like 7:30 p.m. So we were probably in bed at like 8:30, definitely earlier than usual. Usually we're in bed by like between 9:30 and 10. But I was just, wanting some more sleep while I could get it. And we were in bed, and I just kept waking up. Like, I would fall asleep, and then I would wake up to a mild contraction, I would fall asleep. I just kept telling myself to just relax, and it'll pass. Like, it'll pass. Like, this is not, going to build up into anything, and just trying to ignore it as much as possible. Try to stay in bed as long as possible. And then around midnight, I was like, you know what? I can't sleep anymore. They're like coming too quickly. I'm not able to fall asleep. I'm gonna go take a shower. So went and took a hot shower, and that felt great. And again, they weren't bad by any means, like very, very mild. And they were starting to become more consistent. So I took a nice shower and shaved and shampooed, like, got all clean. Like, it was great. Except for I wasn't getting sleep, but it was great. And so then got dressed and told my husband, like, hey, I'm gonna go out into the living room and turn on some Harry Potter. And every time, like, I was just trying to do tasks. And every time I would stand up or sit down, like, things, like, instead of them being a few minutes apart, it was like they would come in succession as I, like, stood up or sat down. And I went and told my husband, I think around 2, I woke him up. I think he asked me to come back, like, after an hour or something to give him an update. And I told him, I was like, yeah, they're, coming consistently. I think at this point I did download, like, a timing app, but they weren't consistent, like, so many minutes apart. Like, sometimes it was 3 minutes, sometimes it was 5, sometimes it was 8, and then sometimes they were 30 seconds apart, because it depended on if I was standing up or sitting down or going downstairs to grab laundry and whatnot. So I told him, gave him the update. He was like, okay, come back, in an hour. And He may have came back out with me. I don't remember exactly. I think he told me he did. And at this point, I actually grabbed an ice pack out of the freezer and was using the bouncing ball, and just kind of like laying on the ball with an ice pack. That for whatever reason, that ice pack was like chef's kiss. It was golden. It was wonderful. A really great distraction, and just really helped me relax. And I might have got my timing a little off, maybe not. I might have gotten it off because I think when he was asking if we should reach out to my brother and sister-in-law, and I was like, well, like things aren't consistent. Like I want to wait and like, I'll just shoot them a text. And if they're awake and they see it, great, they can start heading over. It's, a 30-minute drive for them. They had to pack up and whatnot. And shockingly, I think my brother-in-law heard the message come through, and luckily they started packing up and coming over, because a little bit after I sent that text, things did start ramping up, and I really needed my husband's support at that time to just like sway with him, and also using the ice pack and hearing his positive words, and that was all really helpful. And again, I was coping really, really well as things ramped up, and the ice pack was key. The positive words of affirmation were key, and just constantly reminding myself to like, relax my face and relax my jaw and my shoulders. And then as soon as the contraction, the wave just kind of like came and passed over, I was myself. I was completely myself, completely aware. And that was my goal for this labor and delivery. It was like, I wanted to be more present, and I wanted to be able to have conversations with those around me. And really that's what I got. It was wonderful. It was really cool to really listen to my body more this time. I know a lot of women talk about how the contractions feel and how it like wraps around your belly. For me, the contractions really like, they started like low in my pelvis and then kind of came up and over my belly. So that's how I always felt them start. It was kind of like a wave starting on the bottom, and then coming up to on top of my belly. I hadn't really heard that very much. So I hope it's helpful to some, but again, that's just how it felt for me. And I definitely wanted to share that, like listening to my body and tuning in more, and just leaning into those feelings was really cool to experience and to feel. And so anyways, back to the story and the timeline. My brother and sister-in-law did start coming over, and my husband after the fact was like, why didn't you call them? And I was like, well, you could have called them. Like I was trying to I didn't want to call them because I still at this point wasn't convinced that this was like actual labor. Like I just felt like I wasn't very far along. I felt like we were going to get to the hospital and I was going to need to like walk some laps outside because the hospital was an hour drive away, which we chose that intentionally because I really wanted a midwife this time around to deliver and not a doctor, which meant we needed to go to a certain hospital, and that hospital was an hour away. So luckily, husband didn't quite listen to me, and my brother and sister-in-law didn't quite listen to me in my text message I sent them, and they started coming over, and I think they got here around 3 a.m. So that's why I think my timing might have been a little off with the timing of like, hey, I took my shower at midnight, and then I think I woke my husband up at 1 or 2, and maybe that's accurate. I woke him up again at 2, and then he came out into the living room with me and started supporting me, and then that's when he was like, hey, maybe we should reach out to them. So that timing lines up for them to arrive a little after 3 o'clock, right around that 3 a.m. time. And then my husband and I, we got ready, and they were all set with our little guy to be there when he woke up. And we got to the hospital. The drive was not bad. The ice pack, again, was key. And my husband saying those positive words and just being there in his presence. And again, the first time around, I didn't do that. I didn't lean into like the physical touch, or just like even like hugging my husband and all. Like that just felt weird and awkward. But me practicing that with him ahead of time, I felt really helped, and him being more included in the preparation really helped. And that just helped me to be able to lean into him more during the contractions during labor. And so that felt great. And the car ride wasn't that bad. Again, it was the, hey, like feeling the waves come over and then go away during the car ride. And my husband said he felt like they were getting closer and closer together, so he was getting worried about timing. But we made it to the hospital just fine. And I remember getting up out of the car, and again, I was still very present in between everything. It was everything I could have imagined. It was wonderful to be able to have conversations in between the contractions, like just being able to be present and enjoying it so much more. That this time around was wonderful. And so we get to the hospital, we stand up, I'm like, I don't think my water broke, but I definitely feel like wet down there. I'm like, I don't think my water broke. Maybe I just peed myself. Whatever. We get in, nice long walk to get to labor and delivery, and they offered me a wheelchair. And it's like, no, like I just wanted to keep walking, just to keep moving, keep things moving along, keep the progression going. So it took us quite a bit longer because there were pauses for every contraction, just swaying with my husband. And then we would continue walking, and it was great to talk to the woman who walked us back there. We checked in to labor and delivery, and then went to triage. And it was funny, apparently as I was getting dressed in the bathroom, one, it wasn't me peeing my pants or water breaking. It was just like a lot of discharge, kind of like a bloody show, but like a lot of blood and mucus. And I was like, well, there goes that bare underwear, but that's also why I get like some black, cotton underwear to just be able to throw away during pregnancy. So that was great. I was like, cool. So like, there's got to be some good progression. And, at this point I decided I didn't need to walk around outside the hospital. Like we would just go in and see how things were progressing. And so in triage, apparently the nurse, while I was in the bathroom, was talking to my husband about, maybe like depending on, how far along, we had to send you guys out to just have her walk around in the hallway or outside, have you guys come back in an hour. And then the midwife comes in, I get back out there again, still using the ice pack. And crazy, when I lay down in the bed, things like lightened up, became easier. They weren't as tough or as difficult to work through mentally. Like it felt like a nice needed break. So that felt really good, to just like be in the bed and get that a little bit more of a break. It felt like they weren't as tough. They weren't as they just weren't as tough to work through. It felt like a nice break. I was still able to be very present. It was wonderful having conversations with the nurse and with the midwife. Again, it was just really, I was really fortunate and really lucky. So the midwife comes in, she checks me, and I'm an 8. To everyone's surprise and shock, for sure. So got in. I totally forgot that I was going to need, I was GBS positive again, so I was going to need those antibiotics. So completely forgot that I was going to need an IV, even though I really didn't want the IV. But I knew that would, I was okay with it. So I totally forgot I needed the IV. Got it, started getting the antibiotics, and then we started walking to the room for labor and delivery, and I chose to walk. They offered, to wheel me. I was like, no, I just want to keep walking. And everyone was shocked and surprised that like I was still walking, but really like it was just very, very night and day difference. Like from my first labor and delivery, I was curled up in the bed in pain, yelling and screaming at this point. This time around, was able to walk and talk and have conversations and being able to work through them. Don't get me wrong, during them they were very tough, using the ice pack, utilizing my husband, swaying, just getting his support and positive words. Those were the things that were helping me get there, and just being able to relax and feel them come on. Also this time around, I told my husband, I'm like, every room we get to or every place we get to, I need you to tell me to use the bathroom, because last time I didn't use the bathroom at all when we got to the hospital. So this time I wanted to make sure I was at least trying to use the bathroom. So he did great. when we got there. And then when we got to the labor and delivery room, he told me, he's like, hey, go use the bathroom. So I told him, you have to tell me, don't ask me, because I'll just say no. So he told me, and I went and used the bathroom, and I was by myself, and I was able to, like, a very small amount, use the bathroom. And then my mother-in-law got there and father-in-law got there. So that was really great timing on their part. Because again, we got to the hospital a little after 4, so we got to the room probably at, like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then shortly after I used the bathroom, I was just, like, really wanting to get checked. The nurses told me that if I wanted to get checked, I needed to tell them. Like, the midwives aren't going to come around like the doctors would, for example. So I asked to get checked, and I was like, am I going to have to lay in the bed to get checked? And they said yes. So as I'm getting into the bed, or like just before I was getting into the bed, the nurse was like, oh, are you feeling pushy? And I was like, no, I'm not feeling pushy, because also the nurse told me in triage, because with my first, I pushed, I think it was like 24 minutes it took for me to push him out. That this time around, they're like, hey, as soon as you feel pushy, you need to tell us so that we can get the midwife to come here, get here. And so the fact that she asked me, I was like, no, I don't feel pushy at all. And I was standing up, and with my mother-in-law, actually, I think my husband, like, stepped away, which is why I wanted somebody else there so that he could step away and take a break when he needed. And so I was leaning on her this time, with the ice pack, and she was saying some positive words, and that was really helpful. And that second contraction after the nurse asked me, and she was like, you feel pushy now? And I was like, yes, I do. I do feel pushy now. So get onto the bed, for the midwife to check me. And that's kind of when I lost it. I don't even remember if the midwife did check me. Like, that was the point. As soon as, like, I felt pushy and got into bed, that's when I started clenching onto the railings, and it felt like such a long time. That's when I started yelling and clenching. Being more of, like, a primal animal is how I explained it, even with my first labor and delivery story, where I just lost it mentally. And it felt like a very long time to be pushing. What I will say this time around, what was really cool, is that I was able to feel my baby's head come out. We also didn't know the gender. So I felt their head coming out at 2 different times, which was really cool. Really, really weird feeling for anyone who has done it. And the midwife was wonderful and just supporting me. And I loved this time that no one was telling me how to push. There was no counting. There was no, like, hold your breath. It was just a very different experience from my first, and I loved that for myself. I was so very thankful and happy with the choices that I made for this labor and delivery and for this baby, for this experience. And come to find out, after baby was born just after 6 a.m. So very quick turnaround this time. And so obviously I didn't have enough time to get all the antibiotics, which caused a longer hospital stay, but that was fine. But anyways, so I felt like pushing took quite a while. And afterwards, the nurses said it was 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes of me losing it and yelling and screaming and clenching onto the bed rail. But as soon as our baby was born, it was just so surreal. And it was a girl. And my husband announced the gender. He saw the gender. We both had trouble seeing the gender because the cord went right between her legs. So like it was hard for us to see. But the midwife helped my husband do that. And so it was really cool this time around to also just experience the cord still being attached, and baby being up on my chest and nursing, and just the explanations were wonderful from the midwife, just explaining, hey, here are your options, what do you want to do? Like, there was never, we're just doing this. And then that's how it was with the doctor. Not that it's wrong or it's bad, it's just a different type of feeling. And the midwife, I just resonated with so much more this time around. And that's definitely the avenue, if we were to have another. That's definitely the path that I think both of us want to go down again. This time around, however, there were some bleeding concerns with the midwives, and they talked us through all those different options. Went through a couple of different things, like a shot and a lot of like belly rubs and massages, and there was something else. There was like multiple things because I kept bleeding quite a bit, so they were a bit concerned, and over a certain time period. But baby was healthy, baby was latched and nursing, and things were great, things were wonderful, and I was just so thankful for this labor and delivery and for this experience. And apologies, this video is so long, but I'm really hopeful that I loved listening to these videos. I listened to them during my drives all the time, and I just felt they were really helpful to hear other women talk through what their situation was and how it went and what they did. And so please let me know if you have questions. Would love to elaborate more. If you want those positive affirmations, I have like a list that I sent to my support people, and it was just, so wonderful, and just so thankful and so grateful for how things went for my second labor and delivery story. And I hope this helps someone out there to hear this story. If you have any questions, please reach out, please leave a comment. We'd love to connect and chat with you all. Thank you again for listening, and looking forward to chatting with you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.